Hi guys, welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look at some of the Chinese stocks listed in the US. Before I begin, remember to take a second to give the video a like and subscribe as you greatly help our channel. Without further ado, let's first start off with Alibaba. So Alibaba managed to see some resistance at around the 121 levels after it formed very much like a double top pattern and it started to see some minor sell-off. So it seems like we still managed to close above the 78.6% and 112, and we found some good support here and bouncing off this blue conversion line here. So in the event that we do pull back down, we are looking at the first support at 112 and also 101, just above this $100 psychological support at around this red baseline here. However, if we do manage to break out above 121 this upcoming week, then we're looking towards this 124.7, which is the next resistance for Alibaba. And if we were to break out above this $130 psychological support, then 138 will be the next likely target for Baba. So let's move on to Tencent. So as you can see, Tencent is significantly weaker. After we managed to see some sell-off, we are barely holding this 38.2% at 45.16. So if we do manage to start breaking down this cloud support level, then it's likely for us to see for this 364 as our last support before we were to go back to retest $41 levels, where there is a lot much more greater support here at these levels. The resistance to watch will be this blue conversion line and baseline here, which is currently around $46, $46.70 to be precise. So if we manage to break above this $46.70, then we can continue to become more bullish and continue going up. So let's move on to NetEase. So in fact, NetEase, there is actually not much movement after its sell-off because of its bad news. Fortunately, we find some great support here at its cloud support level. And you can see that the NetEase is currently struggling to hold its cloud levels at around $93. So at the same time, we can see that this 23.6% the $90 psychological support is essentially its last support. If we were to break down further, then we are likely to be looking towards this 84.20 as our last support before testing this $80 psychological support levels. Resistance to clear would be this particular level here at 96.49 and also around $98 to $99 where there is this red baseline here, which acts as a very strong resistance for NetEase. Let's move on to NIO. So you can see that NIO seems to be trending up recently, and we had the pullback that we actually expected. So you can see that this is also another double top, similar to Alibaba. And at this 61.8% at 24.15, we managed to actually break above it, but it seems like a fake breakout. We hit a high of 24.43. Unfortunately, we did not clear it on the first attempt, so we seems to be pulling back down, and we're just below this blue conversion line at around 22.52. So if we were to pull back down further, then we're looking towards this $19, just below this $20 psychological support level, where there may be some potential stop hunting around $18 to $19 to flush out some retail investors before we can continue to trend back up. So let's move on to JD.com. So JD.com, actually nothing much to say. You can see that we are still struggling to cross the 61.8% at 68.10. And we hit a high of 68.29. So it seems to be trending sideways for now. And the key support to watch would be this 63.70 and also this $60 psychological resistance. This rate baseline is currently at $58 below the $60 psychological resistance. So if we manage to break above 68.10, we're looking towards a $70 psychological resistance and also this 73.88 as the next resistance for next week for JD.com if we manage to punch up above 68.29. Let's move on to Baidu. So very similar pattern to Baidu. Actually, there's not much of a change compared to last week. We found some resistance at this 156 levels, and it just seems to be unable to cross above it. And we managed to retrace back down. And you can see that this blue conversion line acted as a very good support at around 148 levels. So if we pull back down further to this red baseline, then we are likely to be looking at 136 levels, which also coincides with the 61.8% at 135.75, which is a very strong support for Baidu. If we start breaking down, then we are likely to be looking at these cloud levels at around $130 levels, which hopefully will hold for Baidu if we would pull back down. Let's move on to PDD. So very similar situation to JD and Baidu. There's actually not much movement. It seems to be consolidating along the blue conversion line, and it's sticking quite closely to this blue conversion line. If we manage to cross above the 67.90, then we're likely to be looking towards $80 psychological resistance level if we manage to cross this $71 as well. If we were to pull back down, then we're looking at the $60. It's a very strong psychological support level. And if you go down further, then we're likely to be looking at $53 or $54 and the 61.8%. And at the same time, it would be this rate baseline support level for PDD or Pinduoduo. Let's move on to KWEB. So KWEB consolidating sideways as expected. Not much changes to Chinese stocks. The key resistance to clear will be this 32 to 39, which we already have cleared. So the next support, if we actually break out the third time, we're looking towards this 35.65 and even this 39.80 at around the $40 psychological resistance level. In the event that we do pull back down, then we're looking at 32.08 and also a $30 psychological support level. In fact, this rate baseline is currently at 29.71, so this also acts as a pretty good support for KWEB. Let's move on to CWEB. So CWEB, a very similar situation. You can see that it's consolidating, but 61.8%, 81.87 does not seem to be able to clear it. We tested once and even twice this particular week. So if we were to break out, then we're looking towards 93 and even potentially 107. Well, if we were to break down, then 72 and 65 will act as a pretty strong support for CWEB. At the same time, this rate conversion line, rate baseline rather, is at 62.76. Lastly, let's move on to FXI. So FXI, you can clearly see that it's well supported by this blue conversion line. And in fact, we actually hold it on 2 occasions on this particular day and coincides with this 33.33 at the 78.6% Fibonacci support level. So if we were to pull back down, then we're looking at this $32, which is a very strong support level, which coincides with this rate baseline and also this 61.8% Fibonacci levels. So if we were to break out above 34.57, then we're looking towards 36.86 and even potentially 39.78. So on the whole, the Chinese stock seems to be consolidating sideways, and we will see whether there's more pressure, buying pressure next week for us to create higher highs as well. So if there's any changes, I'll give you guys an update. Thanks for stopping by. Till we meet again, appreciate the manipulation.